What is up, though, Lions fans? It's your boy Motor City Don P back here once again, and you already know when you see me in front of your TV, one thing's for certain and three things are for sure. The first thing is that the Motor City Cats are back at it. The second thing is that we came to give you stats and not static. And the third thing is that we want to make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic. And how do you keep your Lions news pragmatic? Well, you smash that like button, you subscribe, you share, you let everybody know that the Motor City Cats are indeed back at it and keeping your Lions news pragmatic. We got a packed show today. We will be joined by the illustrious, the one and only, none other than the Doc Maakaron. Let's see. Hold on. Am I frozen here? All right, we are back. Sorry about that. We got the one freeze out of the way, but now, without further ado, let us be joined by, let us welcome in the one, the only, John Doc Maakaron. What is going on, my guy? How are you today? What up, though?
What up, Don? It's all good, man. It's the off season. I'm tanning. I'm enjoying life, having a good time. But my goodness, there's still so much Detroit Lions news I can't pull away. Hanging out by the pool, trying to enjoy life, but there's so much Detroit Lions news. So if you're in the comments, fire away. We'll talk about the Detroit Lions. I love it. I always enjoy talking about the football team, even in the off season. Let's go. We got a lot to talk about. Let's fire it up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, we do have a lot to talk about today. We're gonna ease the people into this situation. We're gonna talk about the OTAs. So I just want to know, like, what did you think about what you saw? Were there any surprises? Were there any risers, any fallers, any losers, Broderick Martin? Anyone that you felt like, what was your assessment of the OTAs?
Yeah, look, I think everybody should get excited about what the coaching staff was saying about Jamison Williams. You got a guy there that bulked up. That's really probably when you see his situation, he knows that he's playing for big dollars. He's already made a lot of money, but he has an opportunity. He already got the 5th year option, but if he balls out, he sees the dollars that CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase are making. And why not go chase those dollars? And I think that he's a guy that wants to be great at his craft, and the coaching staff definitely raved about him. He definitely looks stronger, so it's always good to see Jamison Williams out there. I think that it's good to see some development from Ennis Rakestraw, getting him a chance to go up against Jamison Williams. We got our first look at DJ Reed, which was great. Had a nice chance to have a conversation with him. Definitely down to earth, a humble guy that wants to lay the groundwork to have a good year. He told me in a one-on-one interview, his goal is to get his hands on more footballs. Last year with the Jets, no interceptions. And he was part of a losing situation last year, and I think he's going to find it much more enjoyable playing in Detroit. But I think what everybody really wanted to see and hear about was that we got our first glimpse of Aiden Hutchinson, and all right, he's back. Aiden's back, and he's ready to go. And by all accounts, if you get the production out of Aiden Hutchinson that everybody thinks, then this football team can have success. And that's what everybody wanted to see. Now, on the other side, the thing that's kind of stunk was OTA doesn't have the same exact value as it did in years past. It's basically a glorified walkthrough. There's a couple competitive periods, but you're not wearing pads. You do get a glimpse of some of the rookies and how they stack up, but Dan Campbell has said it quite a bit. You don't get a lot of thorough assessment from OTAs, but you do get a sense of the mindset of these athletes. And I think that it's a great opportunity to get out there. The second one, not so much. It was even worse for the media to get out there. They weren't doing anything. It was the third day. It had the feel, the way I described it, was the last day of school. Everybody was just kind of there ready to get in, get out. And it was fine. But for me, I was all excited. I'm all gung ho. I want to see competitive periods anytime you get out there. But it didn't happen for that last day, but you still get a lot of camera footage and photos and pictures of guys that you didn't get in the system. So I looked at it like you're right. There were a lot of guys that were out that I wanted to see. Broderick Martin, Amon-Ra St. Brown, a lot of players that you would have wanted to have seen and laid your eyes on. You just didn't get a chance to, like a Sione Vaki. But that's fine. I thought that overall, it's a good glimpse. First look at the Detroit Lions was definitely positive.
Okay. That's good to hear. Now, as speaking of Amon-Ra St. Brown, did he elaborate on the knee procedure that he said that he had, or is it just like some cleanup stuff? Or
Yeah, that's what he indicated. It was just an off-season surgery. He was out there working out. The last day we got to see him on the side working out. So he was testing out the knee. I don't think there's any concern, but you always have, when you have a player that has surgery, you always want to pay attention in the future. And it's just because of his size. He's, a guy that's going to be, and the way I describe it, Don, is that, he's not a slot merchant, but he's catching balls within 10 yards quite a bit of times. So that means he's in the target, in the crosshairs of linebackers, safeties. He's ready to get hit quite a bit. So he's a guy that's a target. And I think that having a cleanup procedure, probably, you heard Jack Campbell as well, had an offseason hip surgery. Kirby Joseph last year, similarly. These guys, man, it's a physical sport. and everybody on the defense is getting bigger, stronger, and faster. So it takes a toll when you're working out, 11 months of the year. And so for Amon-Ra St. Brown, cleanup procedure, he wouldn't have talked to the media if he wouldn't be fully ready for training camp. But just a scope, the way you describe it is to clean up, be ready to go for training camp.
Okay, cool. Now, we'll stay on the receivers for a second here. As you know, I am the official keeper of the JMO. So whatever I say about JMO, it's a little bit slotted, maybe some bias going on. I want to ask you a question. As you cover the Detroit Lions, you talk to Dan Campbell, you talk to, Brad Holmes, you talk to all these people. Does Dan Campbell love JMO?
Yeah, look at I wouldn't use those words. I would say, look,
you can use them. It's fine.
No, it's good. No. He adores them. He just can't wait to hang out with them. I look at it like you want your offensive weapons to be happy. Now, I look at it like as if you're Dan Campbell, you're the CEO of the company, right? JMO is a great earner, but you always got to have those regular quarterly meetings to remind him, hey, you got to keep earning. He's not like you can, like Amon-Ra, where you just you can leave him alone. You never have to talk to him. He's working hard. He doesn't have to show up. He can do as many podcasts as he wants, say whatever, but he's not going to do some things. With JMO, you got to kind of sit him down a couple times a quarter and be like, hey, lock in, get your stuff in order. You're supposed to be here on this route and here on that route. And you just got to remind him a little bit. So it's I would say in so many words, love-hate relationship, in that he loves the productivity on the field, but he wants JMO to lock in on the details. And for head coaches, and this is not specific to JMO, this is just how coaches are wired. They want practice to be seamless, because it's true. You practice how you play. But JMO has that rare ability where he can have an awful practice where he's just dropping balls. And I've documented it where people are like, man, Doc, all you showcase on your Twitter page is JMO dropping the ball. Well, I can only, the funny part is we're only out there 6 minutes for practice in the regular season. And so they only throw him the ball 3 times. And if he drops one, that might be the only one I can lock in on, because I want to shoot 5 other people. So it's not like I'm trying to intentionally show drops. It's just I'm trying to get 5, 6 other things, and we're only out there for a good 7 minutes. And so I have an agenda to get all this content. But, but JMO is one of those rare cats where when the bright lights are on, he's spectacular. So you live with it. You live with a couple practices that aren't the best, but he's getting a lot better at it. You're hearing that he competes very hard at practice. You're hearing that he's definitely taking a lot of notes and learning and more in the philosophy of the game, which is great. That's what you want to see. He's all in. He wants to be great. And for Jameson Williams, if you get that deep threat option out of him and you develop that relationship further with Jared Goff, and he's the guy that takes the top off the defense, I would like to see him use more like a Deebo Samuel. Get him the ball earlier. Get him into the game. Get him going. That way the offense can get into the rhythm. I think John Morton is going to use him in a way that's going to highlight his strengths even more. Get him into that 60 catch range, 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns, lots of deep catches. And if he's in that, if he becomes unstoppable like T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, look out. That just makes everything better for Amon-Ra, for Tim Patrick, and then you get Tesla in the mix later in the year. I just think it's great. So Jameson Williams is a talent. He's a rare talent. You don't see a guy that looks like he's striding at 85% that can blow past NFL defensive backs. But if JMO turns on the jets and lets it rip, he's almost unguardable. And it's fun to watch from an up-close vantage point. Unguardable is Jameson Williams.
Unguardable. You heard it here. The doc says JMO is unguardable. And the official keeper of the JMO approves of this message. All right. So let's move on to some of the other things from OTAs. We talked about Aiden Hutchinson coming back from injury. We think he's going to be fine. Another guy coming back from injury, a lightning rod. I've been called a hater. I've been called a doubter. But I mean, you're showing me that you can't do it. You can do it as far as your ability, but your ability to stay healthy is next to none. that is one Marcus Davenport. Did you see him out there? What did he look like? Did they have him in bubble wrap? Did they have bubble wrap around his ankles, around his triceps? Like, what was the vibe out there with Marcus Davenport?
Yeah, no, he's like one of those figures in Detroit sports that right now is low on the approval poll. Most people believe that he's going to play 2 games and get hurt again. So I understand fans are skeptical, as they should be, until he proves it. What I loved is that the Lions talked about it. I asked Kelvin Shepard and the defensive line coach, like, what do you see in this guy? Like, why do you want him on this team? And they were open and honest. And Kelvin Shepard looked me straight in the eye and said, it's not about his talent. The man can bull rush. The man is speed. He can do things athletically that other guys his size cannot do. And he was a former first-round pick. He said the reason why there's talk about him on this roster is because he hasn't. The reason why there's so many eyes on him and so much skepticism is because of his injuries. And so I think that getting him on the contract that they got is affordable. They're taking another chance. It's a gamble. And it's one of those deals where Brad Holmes last year was not on this the positive side of the injury luck. And for quite a bit of players that he's taken a chance on that have dealt with injury, they've kind of they've all backfired. Quite a bit of them that have come in here, you realize, man, Emmanuel Mosley didn't work out. Marcus Davenport, a defensive end that was going to be key for last year's success, got hurt. Now, it was not because that he was injury prone. It was a freak football injury. So you hope that this year, finally, he gets on the side of injury luck. And so I joked around, but it was true on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. And you guys can tell a little bit when I'm joking around and kind of playing off of things that I know Detroit sports fans don't like reading or they like reading. But he was actually in the best shape of his career. Like Miguel Cabrera, he looked like he was in the best shape. He was flying out there. So I definitely picked my words wisely. And everybody's like, oh, laughing, and they caught on to what I was doing. But in the end, it was true. So it made for a good, lighthearted jab. But in the end, Don, it's just crazy because here's the thing. Brad Holmes has avoided the big time player opposite of Aiden because they feel like, hey, we got an affordable option, less than $6 million for Marcus Davenport. But if it doesn't work out, it's just going to activate those doubts again. He's got to produce. He's got to be in that 6 to 10 sack range. He's got to be disruptive. He's got to be a factor to really, really help this football team out. Because if you go to Ahmed Hassanin early, he's still raw. Brad Holmes just said it on a podcast. Good player, understands, can be productive, but he's still raw. Still got to learn a plethora of moves, rip moves, swim moves, recognition. He's got a long way to go in terms of where he needs to be to learn an NFL defense. So he's raw. So I do expect him to contribute, but you need the veteran. And if they're healthy, Marcus Davenport, Aiden Hutchinson can be 2 pretty good bookend defensive ends that can help you quite a bit. And when you add Tyleik Williams to the mix and you hope to get an Lee McNeil in the second half of the year, look, they took a gamble on Marcus Davenport. They see something, they know. And for the coaching staff, here's what it is. They like to know exactly what a player is going to bring day in, day out. And Dan Campbell knows what Davenport can bring in terms of practice, in terms of his attitude, what he brings to the table. So there's a comfort level there that even if a guy is hurt, I was shocked that Mosley's inked another deal with the Lions. I was shocked that happened because they wanted to take another chance. But unfortunately, injuries, it just didn't work out for him either. But you hope that for Marcus Davenport, you hope. The big if he's healthy, he should be productive and a good member of this defense.
So that's where I draw the line on that word, if, right? And this is why with these 2 players that you just mentioned, we were talking about Marcus Davenport, we're talking about Ahmed Hassanin, and I do understand how it comes off when I'm talking about these 2 players. It comes off as though, maybe I don't like them or whatever the case may be. I love Marcus Davenport. I believe, and I want you to know, I would like to know if you believe this as well. If Marcus Davenport was a healthy player, he wouldn't be on the Detroit Lions because we wouldn't be able to afford him because we'd be talking about him getting the type of money that Aiden Hutchinson is going to get or the type of money that, some of the top tier edge rushers get. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, no doubt. Edge rushers are a premium. Brad Holmes talked about it, that when he tried to pull off the deal for Zadarius Smith, he had to go through and make a bunch of calls, and everybody was like, "Hey, you're trying to get at our depth. Like, we can't give up. Like, we're right in the mix. If we give up a defensive end to you and we have one injury, we're out of the mix." So it's a tough grind, and Brad Holmes admitted it was the toughest evaluation and a player acquisition that he had to make, and it was for Zadarius Smith. So it's one of those deals where these defensive end positions are a premium, but that's Brad Holmes' job, is to bring the best talent possible. And I'm always of the opinion that if you could have had an upgrade at defensive end, you potentially, maybe would have revisited those draft picks on Josh Pascal and Levi Onwuzurike. They're good depth players, but I don't think that they've lived up to what maybe has been intended. So you hope this year they start to become more of a focal point and become more impactful for this football team. But the defensive end position is key. But with Aiden, it should unlock a lot of different things. And Marcus Davenport can be somebody that you get a lot of productivity from. He was playing well up until that Cardinals game, and I thought that he was somebody that was starting to ingratiate himself to the Lions defense. And I thought that he was starting to get his imprint, and then his season got cut short. So I want to see it again. And for him too, he's going to want that opportunity to earn big time dollars, and potentially with the Lions or somewhere else, if he can go out there and shine. Similarly with Levi, he's out there trying to get as many sacks as possible, because he literally had to take, which I was shocked because I think everybody overvalued his market. He's not a prove it deal. So let's hope he proves something to the Lions and to others, because if he gets upwards of 7 to 10 sacks, he can get up there in the annual average salary. So we'll see how it goes. But that defensive line too has had an influx of coaches. They can't keep a defensive line coach more than a year. So hopefully there's some stability with Casey Rogers over the next couple of years, so that Hassanin can grow and develop, and Davenport and this defensive line with Mekhi Wingo can grow together with some consistency.
So yeah, let's go to that next name. I think a certain member of the, I don't want to call it the entourage, but it's just a certain member of the entourage doesn't really deal with me, because I feel like I'm speaking the truth. Ahmed Hassanin, the lightning rod started with me when Brad Holmes got up there after the draft and was like, I don't know, 6th round, is that good enough for you guys? No, Brad, it's not. What do you mean? Is it good enough? You addressed the edge position with the developmental player, which means you didn't address it. We've had Broderick Martin in here the last few years, and he's supposed to be developing. All I know about Broderick Martin is he's trying to lose weight and get slimmer, and maybe he's moving to the edge. Maybe that's the theory, right? Because he's just slimming down. He's not really playing. So with Ahmed Hassanin, the thing is like, okay, I understand he told Darren Campbell he would die on the field. It's fantastic. Does that make you a player who is the savior of the edge position opposite Aiden Hutchinson? I don't think so. And I believe he is a 6th round rookie. These are the facts. He's a 6th round rookie. That means that he was passed on by every team in the league at least 5 times. So can we pump the brakes? Can we allow this kid to be whoever he's going to be? I don't understand the 6th round pick edge rusher. Like the hype train is crazy for Ahmed Hassanin. I don't have a problem with Ahmed Hassanin personally. I'm just like, what is this hype coming from? Can you expand and expound on this?
Yeah, no doubt, man. Give a man some shades and he becomes a hater. I like it. I like your willingness to put aside the fanboy hanging on the nutsack of everybody that's a player of the Detroit Lions and question some decisions. Good. That's what my theory is to ask some tough questions. And he partly Brad Holmes was basically talking to me, because I asked him like 15 defensive end questions this offseason, starting at the combine. I got the train rolling early on. I wish you could have heard my question, but he misunderstood the whole point. Here was my question to Brad Holmes directly at the combine. It was, this is a credit to how you built this team that most people feel you're one weak position away from being a Super Bowl contender. What is your reaction to those that think you just need a defensive end to get over the hump? And he's like, well, why don't we get 7, 8 of them? Well, that's your job, is to go out there and find it and make it happen. Now, many people do kind of feel like the team settled on Marcus Davenport, but they believe he can produce. Now, you're absolutely right that the idea is that most people understand that if Brad Holmes picks you, they also remember James Houston was a lower round pick, and he came out there and got 8 sacks, and he was raw too. But they wanted him to be a complete football player. They don't want just a guy to go out there and just sack the quarterback. Like, the Lions' philosophy is you got to earn the right to be out there by understanding your role, understanding that you can't make one good play in a sack and then have 4 bad plays where you're out of position and it breaks down and you give up a 6 to 7 yard run on second down. You know what I mean? So that's where the growth is going to take place. And look, it's fine. Fans' job is to hype up and love their players, love what they need to do. And of course, I understand and can respect that. But also, I've also taken a job to understand, to press and ask questions about the general manager that the fans want. And that's why I think you would love the questions that I was asking Brad about, hey, are you going to get a defensive end? But here's what happened. Brad tried to get a defensive end earlier. He tried. He said, I tried to make 30 trades. And here's a funny story. Ray Agnew must have forgot that Brad was on the radio and said it, because I said, hey, Ray, Brad said, I said, there's a report out there. I should have just said, I forgot, it's early in the morning. I said, hey, Ray, there's a report that you guys tried to trade 30 times. What happened? Was it more tough because of where you were at? Tell me a little bit. He's like, we didn't do that. Well, unfortunately, yes, you did, because that's what Brad Holmes said. So he was maybe a little bit lost in the question or wanted to evade that talk. But here's what happened based on what Brad Holmes said. The Lions position, because they're a good team, and this is the price of being a good football team, you're lower in the draft round in every round. So Brad was trying to move up in the second and third round, making calls, but teams were not trying to come down all that far. So you could make an argument, okay, maybe Tate Ratledge was the intended guy in the second round, but the third round pick, they were trying to be aggressive. What do you think they were trying to get? They were probably trying to maneuver for a defensive end. They just couldn't get to the right spot to get it. And so they had a list of guys that they would have felt comfortable with. Hassanin was a guy that they felt they could take and wait on later on, because they had, Don, they had other needs. We now realize the offensive line was pretty significant. So they went with 2 guys in the draft. So they had to slot it, because unfortunately, with them knowing that there was maybe a question with Frank Ragnow, they probably prioritized the offensive line a little bit more than defensive end. It's an interesting debate, because the fans felt like that's the position to target sooner. And it's a fair point, a very fair point. But they felt like we got some edge rushers. We got some Sam linebackers that can also pressure the quarterback, like an Al-Quadin Muhammad, like a Derek Barnes. So they feel like we have options at that can pressure the quarterback. And they felt like, all right, the guy that they chose was somebody that, in terms of football experience, light on experience. But the Detroit Lions believe that if you've got the intangibles, even more than talent, if you're gritty, if you're hungry, if you're a person that's dedicated to the game of football, they can take you and mold you into a player that can be productive. I do think he'll be productive because he's got the right mindset. I've been knocking on the guy's door for like 3 weeks. Come on my podcast. I want to interview you. And all I've been getting is, which I respect, but it's not great for me and my brand. But he's like, I'm locked in, Doc. I'm locked in. And Ahmed is honest and real when you talk to him. He's like, look, my job is a 6th rounder. I'm not there yet. Why would you want to interview me? And I'm like, because you got a great story and we're both Middle Eastern. We have the same kind of gritty mentality. It's us little guys against the big conglomerates out there. Let's go. And we're both succeeding. And I want to talk to you. I want to get you on the podcast. And he's like, I want to take it easy. I want to get in the book. He literally is diving into that playbook so intently. I can't weasel my way in to get any time with him, which is great. And I'm like, okay, 5 minutes, 4 minutes, we joke around, but he's an honest, good guy that will at least respond to the messages, but he's dedicated. And you never know. I'm a pest. So if you give me your contact info, we'll have some fun conversations. But I do think that he's going to work his way into being a good player. He's got the grit mentality. But yeah, of course, he's not going to beat James Houston year one. But I think he'll be a contributor. He'll be part of the mix because he's going to work his ass off to try and prove that the Lions made the right call. He's got the right gritty mentality. So you like guys, when someone says, I'm going to die for you, thank you, coach, for believing in me, that just indicates a loyalty to the Lions right away, just for the appreciation that they took you, that, hey, you're the guy, you're the team that took a chance on me coming out of Boise State. So Ahmed's going to be just fine. I love what I see out of him. I like it. You want to talk to him more. He's a good kid, good guy learning. I like what I see from him early, but yeah, he's got a long way to go to be productive. And again, you're right. You're being fair and honest. He's a 6th-round pick. He's got a way to go. But the good thing is he knows that. He's like, I'll talk to you when I earned it. And it's one of those deals where I've not seen it that too often, where I tell them what the potential is in terms of the audience and how much appreciate and we're going to hype you up and do what we can do to have a good interview. But to have an opportunity for him to pass on it, I think it's great. He's a humble guy.
See, that part I can respect. I can respect that he knows that he's a 6th-round pick.
He knows.
You know what I'm saying? I can respect that. So at that point, this is what I'm saying. I'm not a hater. Okay.
Yeah, no.
I can respect this. All right. So all of you fans, stop it. Get some help. Let this man do the work and lock in. There's a lot to unpack. The James Houston thing is crazy to me because, again, with just understanding from the fans, because this is what we do. We talk to the fans. Okay. We get their input. We get their feedback. How are they feeling? All these things. The hatred of James Houston, like year 2, was crazy, right? But then Ahmed Hassanin comes in, and your gauge is, can he be James Houston year 1? This is the thing. So that's why it was crazy to me. Speaking of the Tesla pick, did you see the Cat Williams and Shannon Sharp interview? I'm pretty sure you saw it.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
100 million people saw it. That was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. I actually would like to go back and watch that because it's so wild how accurate Cat Williams was. Mm-hmm. And it makes you go, could you imagine if I ever did a show like that and started just airing out laundry and people coming on and trusting me? I've burned a lot of bridges in that interview. No one's going to come out and just let it rip with the doc, but you never know. You know, I'm at that age now, that prime age where Shannon blew up in his mid-50s. I'm still in my early 40s, so we're in a good spot.
Well, if you decide to do that, Doc Tells All episode, come on over here and do it, so I can be like, "What?" So, Doc, what'd you say about what you saying about Jeff Ifrady?
Exactly. What you saying about Easy?
But the thing that he did when he made the football reference, he was like, stand up on the line, boy. I was covering the draft, and I did that exact same thing when they traded up because I thought we were getting our edge rusher, and then they said Isaac Tesla, receiver out of Arkansas. I left. Okay. I went over there somewhere. I had to compose myself because I was like, you gave up all of this and now we have a receiver, which, it may prove to be a need in the coming years. And he may prove to be a guy that does great in all these things. But I mean, now when
you can be real, you hate him because he's white, isn't it? You hate him because he's a white receiver and you don't believe he's gonna hang with the room. He kind of sticks out. Like, what's this guy with the mullet doing in this room? What doesn't belong in this room at this very moment? You got Amon-Ra, J-Mo, Tim Patrick, and this tall white guy. What's he doing here? No, we're just kidding. But it's funny, right? But if Brad Holmes, listen, you gotta look at it like, if Brad Holmes does his film work, the guy brings a lot of talent and grit to the table. They liked his blocking. They liked the fact that he was willing to do the dirty work. And when you look at his tape, the dude has his hands on a lot of footballs. And what Brad Holmes has been missing is that traditional X receiver that's kind of like, and this is a crass comparison, but the model of what you kind of want to see out of Tesla is like Anquan Bolden. You throw him the ball, he's open, and he's going to be reliable. And I think in this offense with Jared Goff, there's a chance that that's a sneaky good pick. But you're absolutely right. The biggest question mark is, are you going to trade up 30 spots for this one guy? 30 spots. You could have gotten a little bit something different on defense that might have helped you. So I understand that question mark, but I feel like Tesla is going to be great in this offense, especially with John Morton. Here's the key. Morton, I think, had a hand in this selection because he's a wide receiver guru. He loves working with these receivers and getting a lot out of them. And I think, too, you also got to realize who's the new wide receiver coach, Scotty Montgomery. So if they looked at his tape and said, man, that white boy can catch the ball and he can do some things, he can get open. Look at that quarterback that's throwing it to him. He can't get him the ball. He ain't got no arm strength. The guy can throw it as hard as he can and can't make it 50 yards. And he still was showing up on tape. So I think that, Tesla, the question mark is going to be, and it's going to be flushed out. It's so true. Was it worth it to give up draft capital that much? And you have an opportunity to see that in the coming years. But I think it's going to work out. But Brad Holmes said it because he was the good thing is that when things happen, people will press Brad Holmes. He said, he was asked, you kind of been playing fast and loose with these picks. He's like, yeah, man, with the way college has been going, these guys are not leaving college. The picks at the end of the third, fourth, fifth round are not the same talent as it was in the Amon-Ra pick. We got to go a little bit different in terms of our strategy. So it's not one of those deals where it's actually, when you look at it, it's a gift that a lot of these guys are battling to earn a spot. These draft picks are not as precious as they used to be because the Lions have a good team. It's harder to crack this roster moving forward. So that's why Brad Holmes, if they find that specific guy that fits these 9, 10 criteria, let's just say probably add 5 more, they probably have 15 criteria that they have to match for the team to be able to draft him. They've got to be gritty, hungry, dedicated to football, nice guys, can be in the locker room, can learn, be coachable, not be divas, be willing to play the game and have fun on social media, be friendly with the media, not be malcontents. A lot of things that they look for in terms of picks. If they find those guys, they are like, if they go, oh, we like this guy, Brad is like, we'll give up 2, 3 picks, whatever you need. We want this guy. And it's hard to argue that that's a bad strategy right now. But if they don't win the Super Bowl this year or next year, I think this guy right here I'm talking to might be the loudest voice saying, hey, Brad might have made some mistakes in his draft strategy, which is fair to open up the subject. We don't have to drink Brad Holmes' bathwater. I don't even think, look, Tesla showed up to the Lions interview wearing a Lions jersey with his name on it. And Brad's like, are you being corny? Like, what the hell are you doing? Like, that's like, this is serious business here. Why are you showing up here in a jersey? Which is the great reaction that Brad should have had. When he said that, I was like, that's good, because Brad's taking it seriously. Like, what are you doing here? Like, trying to kiss my butt? Like, you don't need to come in here ass kissing, man. Just come here and tell us why you need to be a part of our organization. But then when he learned that, he's a hometown kid and had a love for the Lions, he eased up a little bit. But the first thought that Brad Holmes was like, trying to kiss my ass, man? What the hell are you trying to do with all that? We don't need all that. Come in here and be serious about this. So I love that reaction. I love that.
Yeah, I think the loudest voice would be Lions Syndicate. Shout out Derek. And then I would be second. Yeah, so Easy says put 40 pounds on Tesla and there's your edge rusher.
White edge rusher. There you go.
Yes. But I think anything that was picked there, if it was a corner, if it was a tight end, like if it was an offensive lineman, okay. Because especially now. Right, because anything that happens now with the offensive line, you understand, okay, that was a necessary thing. Even though Brad says he didn't know specifically that Frank Ragnow was going to retire this year. He didn't know this before the draft. He thought probably next year, maybe one more year, maybe 2. But who knows? We'll probably have an opportunity to draft Shamar Stewart again next season, because it looks like he's not signing with the Bengals and he may re-enter the draft. So we talked about all of these things, talked about the drive, talked about OTAs. We'll get to some questions, and then we'll get to this thing because this thing has taken over the internet, especially from Detroit. I don't know if those other people out on the other coasts are getting into the situation, but we'll get into it. So the first question we have from Jeff O'Neill is there any chance of Alex, I'm guessing he means Anzalone, Alex, yeah, because he said Alexander. Uh, is there any chance for Anzalone on a 1-year deal?
Yeah, no, if Jeff wants to clarify if it's someone else, an edge rusher, linebacker, put the first name too, because there's a lot of Alexanders out there as well. But if it's Alex
Quan
Anzalone,
Alexander.
yeah, it's look, I look at the Alex Anzalone situation as he should want more money. He should want to have himself locked up beyond this year. He's outplayed his contract. He sees the rest of the guys out there. He sees linebackers making north of $20 million and he's making 6. So you just see your teammate and Derek Barnes making 8. I do think that he's going to get extended, probably get another year and earn some extra dollars, maybe even 2 years, and spread out the overall cap hit. I think he probably should make just a little bit more than Derek Barnes, maybe even like $500,000 to $1 million more. Get him 2 years, 18 million, make him happy, spread it out. I think that, look, man, the defensive numbers took a major hit with him gone. When he fractured his arm, those games that he was gone, they gave up more yards, more points. He said it. Like the things that he did to advocate for himself were just fine. I think that he's earned the money. I do think that the reason why he hasn't been is that they're still waiting to see how it's going to shake out with Aiden. I do think that Brad's waiting for Trey Hendrickson also too, potentially to. I think Aiden's people probably should wait for Trey's to fall first. That way you can top that if you don't want to make a deal in the $37.5 million range, if you're Aiden and then Trey Hendrickson shows up and gets 42, you're like, hey, if he gets 42, I should get 45. So that's where I think Brad has to wait a little bit. And I do think that the communication is going to be open with Alex Anzalone. You kind of see him kind of not talking as much. I think that, I like the fact that he's willing to dip his toe into that public negotiation, but he won't be a distraction. They'll take care of Alex. No problems.
So apparently Jeff meant Jair. We're not even.
Yep. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
That's a great question on Jair. This is the season where people look at a lot of different players. Look, the one that was funny was the talk about the Steelers. TJ Watt, that's never going to happen. He's going to retire a Steeler. He fits them perfectly. Trey Hendrickson's not coming to Detroit. As much as we wanted it to happen, it feels like, okay, the Bengals are going to have to bow down to public pressure. Jair, I would like it, but I don't know if he's going to fit the financial constraints the Lions have as a cornerback, because I do think that they've invested in DJ Reed, $16 million. You have Ennis Rakestraw. You have Terry and Arnold. I don't know if that they want to take away any more playing time. He's a good player, but I think he'll end up getting 12 to 13 million from some other team. You just hope that it's out there, maybe in the AFC, but I just don't see it being a fit. I like the player. I think that I don't have any problem with what he could bring to the Lions in terms of his play. Problem is he's also injury prone. So that's why people are entertained by that idea. But I think the odds of Jair Alexander being a Lion are pretty low, 15%, if that.
Yeah, I would say probably 5%.
Yeah, if that, yeah.
So the next question is from C. Henry on X. I think it's, what does the starting interior offensive line look like week 1?
Yeah, no doubt. I want to give props to C, man. He's always in there messaging me, letting me know if he likes what I say or don't like, and I respect that. He's always around doing the things that he does, and you got to respect those. I'm talking about years, so I appreciate that, and I see all the messages you've sent us and the things that you comment, and you've always kept it respectful, and I can respect that. He doesn't like everything I say, but he's always been around and said what he likes and what he doesn't like. I think it's pretty straightforward in my mind to start. I had a chance to talk to TJ Lang, and I just feel the same way. I mean, I do think Tate Ratledge has a chance to compete for the center job, but that's a lot of info. That's a lot of info to throw at a young rookie, and especially in a year where you're trying to win a Super Bowl. So to me, I think it looks pretty straightforward to start. And if Tate Ratledge just dominates and makes everybody look wrong, then no problems here. But I think you go Taylor Decker on the left side. You get Christian Mahogany dominating as the left guard. You get Graham Glasgow, the veteran who understands things as a center. And then you get Tate Ratledge, the right guard to start, where he played in college. You want to be comfortable in your early time in the NFL. He was great at right guard at Georgia. Stick with that. Tate Ratledge, Penei Sewell, good luck trying to get to Jared Goff from that perspective. I like that to start. And here's what TJ Lang told me. I had a chance to go to a basketball event downtown that I got invited to. And personally, it was very nice to go see a Detroit event. The Big 3-on-3 league has a new Detroit team. And so TJ Lang is part owner of it, the former Lions offensive lineman. So I got a chance to pull him aside and talk to him. And I talked about the Big 3 and what his role is and the ownership group. And it's really interesting to check out. The Detroit 3-on-3 team is called the Detroit Amps. So you can check out their 1-0. They beat Chicago. So they're off to a good start. But I said, hey, I got to ask you about Frank. And he's like, yeah. And he gave me a thorough answer, which you can see on our website. I put the interview in totality where I asked him. And he said, look, people think that the center is the guy that has to make the calls. He's like, if you don't feel comfortable exactly with Graham Glasgow, you can spread out the responsibility of checks and calls across the offensive line. It could be Taylor. It could be throw some on Penei Sewell. He's like, you don't have to have Graham Glasgow make the checks. If it doesn't have to go that way. But he's like, by week 1 or 2 of training camp, when things get rolling, you got to know who it is. And with that immediacy, I just think that you go with a veteran. So I like the young guys, the young guards, Mahogany, Ratledge at guards, and you dominate in the in the trenches there. I like that prospect but I do think you train Tate Ratledge as much as possible, just in case something happens to Graham Glasgow. But you also have Kingsley Egwakun, you have Colby Sorsdahl, you have options. Besides, the new guy that they brought in from Arizona, you have options to handle business.
Colby Sorsdahl is not an option. Stop it, Doc.
He was out there. Hey, he's an option because he was taking some snaps. Now, I didn't say it was a great option. I'm talking about if Graham goes down, if Tate's not feeling it on a snap, that's the third or fourth best option.
Listen, if we get to that point, I think Dan Campbell needs to throw another flag, not the red one or the yellow one, but the white one. It's like, listen, Colby,
right.
We give up. We forfeit this one. We're going to move on. So I don't think people have too much of a problem with Graham Glasgow and his knowledge. I think because the last we saw him, his performance wasn't great. But I try to remind people that Graham Glasgow was a Hall of Fame center because he helped Jared Goff get his Hall of Fame, jersey in there for the perfect game. He was the center. It wasn't Frank Ragnow. So the next question is from Just a Fan. He says, what is the likelihood that there is a top edge room in Detroit this season? And I will add something to that question because I think the only way that happens is if we bring somebody back. Somebody that wants to be here has to come back for that situation. Now, I don't know if you saw the Green Light podcast with Chris Long. He asked Brad this question. Now, Easy was crashing out because Brad did not touch the Big Z part. I thought it was just Brad being pragmatic and being practical, not answering it because he's not under contract. What do you think about this situation?
Yeah, and look at it. Like, if you say, oh, yeah, we'd love him, that just means the agent goes, okay, that's another $250,000. It's simple. Like, Brad is definitely focused on who's on the roster, and he's made it clear. Probably, like, we've been in touch with the agent. The ball is now in their court, which means they probably have this is our offer. Like, this is it. It's firm at this probably 1 year range. $5 million, a lot of incentives, probably in that range. Now, right now, Zadarius has options. He can sit back, enjoy the vacation life, enjoy hanging out with Cash Doll. There is no rush for him to get back. All right. So everybody's saying, oh, it's going to happen fast. Why would you? You can sit back, wait for an injury, then you can have some leverage and get an extra couple million. So if you're Zadarius Smith, you don't sign until the 3rd or 4th week of the preseason. Skip it. You're a vet. He looks like he's in good shape. So you don't need to have all of that, wear and tear on your body. It's hot. You don't want to be going up against Taylor Decker and Penei Sewell at camp. You don't want none of that. Enjoy your vacation. And if the opportunity comes, he's like, all right, I'll take your offer, Detroit. If nobody gets hurt, then I'm stuck with the contract you offer me. I can come back if I want to. So look, Brad Holmes is not going to diminish Marcus Davenport. He's not going to put that out there because that's the first thing everybody's going to see. Now, just a quick side note. Everybody on YouTube, the first couple times I butchered Ahmed's last name was like, you're such a unprofessional. You should learn his last name. Well, I would happen to let you know that the family has personally let me know how to say it. And Brad Holmes didn't even know how to say it. Listen to how Brad butchered it and didn't say it right. So I'll say this. I'm bad with names. I'm reading 10,000 words a day. So sometimes that 3-4 thoughts are going on in my head at the same time. It's never disrespectful. These names are crazy wild. I don't have time to look up the actual pronunciation all the time. So I apologize if I ever mistake a name, but I know this one gets a lot of attention. So it's Ahmed Hassanin out there. And the fact of the matter is people don't know I'm Middle Eastern too. So he don't care if I butcher it. My name's been butchered so many times, spelled wrong so many times that it's one of those deals where I understand, but it should be something that, look, Brad Holmes messed it up completely. So take it easy on the doc. Take it easy on the doc. Yeah, absolutely. Tactical, you understand. You know what's up. And here's why. Here's what. See, I think that people just bury their head in the sand, don't understand where this love of defensive end came from. 50 million people or so watched the Super Bowl. What did we watch? I sat there and I go, what the hell is this? Patrick Mahomes looks like Jared Goff out here on the national stage. How the hell are the Eagles doing this? Well, the interior also was dominant, so we credit them. But they were sacking his ass left and right. They were making his life a nightmare. Well, what did they have? A dominant defensive line, top to bottom. And you saw how the Eagles put that together. They won a Super Bowl. So you're like, oh, okay. But Brad said it too. He's like, I want to focus on the interior, make sure we stop the run. But yeah, the defensive end position, they got a lot of sacks from they got a lot of sacks from the defensive end spot and were able to do some things across the board. Just look at their defensive line. Go rewatch the Super Bowl. That's where it came from. And everybody's like, oh yeah, if we can do that, we probably would have won. And then on top of that, they saw Jaden Daniels have all day to throw the football, and our defensive line didn't come bring it. So the fans absolutely have a right to pick at that one position, because if you look across the board, they're pretty set. They just have a big question mark opposite of Aiden. But to the Lions' credit, it's not just you wave your magic wand and you get that position filled. It's hard. It's expensive. And the Lions have other guys that they want to pay a lot of money to. So it's just one of those deals where I know people think the cap isn't real. It's real. But at the same token, Brad has money that he wants to give to other people. And right now he allocated defensive end 2 to be worth less than $6 million. Sorry. When defensive end 1 is going to be 45, it's hard pressed to go, yeah, we should have $90 million allocated to the defensive line. It's just tough. I'd love it. But yeah, fans should want that. Fans should want more. That should always be your philosophy. Do we like this guy? Yeah. If he's talented, we like him. We should always want more. But Brad's got to spend wisely. So John Macaroni thinks that the defensive end spot is just as concerning as everybody else does.
Well, I'm one of those people that says that the cap is not real just because I understand how the cap can be manipulated.
For sure. I know it's going up by a bit every year, by a lot.
Yes, it's real, but if you're willing to pay the money and you're willing to look at Kirby Joseph's contract, I mean, he's got option bonuses out the wazoo. It's like, where is his base salary? Like, it's just hidden everywhere. And then the Stafford thing where he was $60 million cap hit when the Rams traded for him, and they converted that whole thing to a signing bonus, and it was a $1 million cap hit. So I think the thing that Brad has to understand, because Brad, I don't know if he's just being facetious, if he believes that the fan base, we need Myles Garrett, we need Trey Hendrickson, we need TJ Watt or nobody else. No, we are asking for someone competent. This is why we want Big Z to come back. We know that when you put Big Z out on the edge, he can win one-on-ones. Josh Pascal cannot do that. Okay, Levi Onwuzurike did not show on the edge that he could do that. He had 3 half sacks, not 3 and a half, 3 half. Okay, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. Okay, you know how they say top five, top five, top five. He was 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. Okay, so this is the problem, and I think that Brad Holmes just, I mean, pump the brakes. We not there are people that are asking you to have this guy, and we're gonna have 2 dominant edge rushers and all these other things. That's great, that's fine. You don't trust Marcus Davenport. You don't, because look at his contract. How, like, what is the guaranteed money? He's 4.75 million. Most of that, 90% of that is in incentives. So you can't tell me that you trust him. And then you're like, okay, well, you could get 4.75 million, or you could just get the veterans minimum if you can't stay healthy. So we'll just tuck this in the pocket and make sure if you stay healthy, we'll give you the money. And I hope that he gets all the money. I hope he gets all 4.75 million, because that means that he's contributed. That means he stayed healthy. And that means that our team has probably done very well. We've gone very, very far. Maybe we've even gone to the Super Bowl. If Marcus Davenport can play 17 games in the regular season and 3 to 4 playoff games, then that's probably what we're doing. And yet the one way to do that also is to bring Big Z back, because then he's in a rotation and he's not on the field as much, and so on and so forth. You can't tell me that you're like, okay, well, Josh Pascal can rotate with Marcus Davenport. You don't want that to happen, right? You want Big Z and Marcus Davenport rotating, because Marcus Davenport is actually better than Big Z at stopping the run, right? So you have less of a drop off. Now you go from Marcus Davenport to Josh Pascal, and you're like, okay, well, Marcus has gotten his breather. Let's get him back in. Come on. So I think that that's what Brad Holmes should understand from us, is that we're not asking you for the moon and the stars. We're just asking you for some clouds, right? Some clouds, not dirt. Okay, so you get the dirt, you're going a little bit too low. All right. We'll take this, I think, question, and then we will get to the great QB debate. So, who the Lions not re-sign, and do they trade them or get the comp pick?
Yeah, the Bills do, right? Upcoming, you got Jahmyr Gibbs. I think they're going to invest in Jahmyr. I do think they're saving money for him. Sam Laporta might be the odd guy out. You never know. Having him want to block a lot more, I thought that was a misuse of his talent. That's a tough position. You know, I think that Brett Holmes is going to try his best to keep everybody. The names you got to pay attention to: Jack Campbell, Brian Branch. I do think there's a way to keep everybody. It's going to be tough. So the tough part is Brad let it out that the easiest position nowadays to replace is wide receiver. So here's the deal. I know that it was a rumor out there that maybe the Lions are going to pay Jameson Williams. I disagree. When I reacted to that rumor, I've always said it. I say that you give him the T. Higgins treatment. You have him this year under contract. You have him next year under the 5th-year option, and then you give him 1 more year at the franchise tag, no more commitment. You got 3 more years of JMO. By that time, you potentially can get his replacement if you need to, because he might be the odd man out, because Brian Branch, integral to that defense. Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, is going to become an offensive star that might make it so that it's impossible to let him go. I think Jameson Williams might be the one fighting for the long-term extension, because it's just one of those deals where you can get similar comparatively with the talent. Just call up Ohio State and say, who's the next one on the list? All right, Smith, deal. Get us him. All right, you got 2 more coming? All right, well, we'll keep an eye on them. I feel like there's wide receivers that are so skilled coming out. Now, you're not going to get the speed, but the wide receiver position is like wide receiver factory this day and age, because it's smart. I always say friends don't let friends play corner at any capacity, because that's a nightmare position to try and learn. I think if you have any friends, tell them friends let friends play wide receiver, because they're in demand, but they're in demand early. But the tough part is that JMO is going to maybe have to fight for the opportunity to get a long-term extension. I don't know if he gets it. I don't know, because the money you got to pay all these guys is not going to be cheap.
Well, I know Johnny Morton loves JMO. Okay, so
love JMO. Everybody should love JMO. He's talented.
Johnny Morton, he was accused in New York of throwing the ball too much. And the thing that I've realized about Johnny Morton is pretty much everywhere he goes, whether he's the offensive coordinator or the passing game coordinator, that passer has the best years of his career. I mean, hell, he was the passing game coordinator for the Raiders, and Carr had the best 2 years of his career. So I think he's going to be very good for Goff. The one thing that I think, I'm going to get your opinion, and we'll roll into this. Jim Caldwell came into Detroit, and he said the way that we make this team better is to take the ball out of Matthew Stafford's hands. He said this because Matthew Stafford had an interception problem in Detroit. I think the only problem that Jared Goff has with these multiple interceptions is that he gets too far into his head, and he's trying to make it all up in one play. So this is how you get what I call the punches and bunches. I think what Johnny Morton is going to do is, in those situations where Jared Goff has thrown an interception, I think that Osama Ben Johnson, allowed, or not even allowed, I think he encouraged Jared Goff to just get back on the horse and just keep throwing. I think what Johnny Morton is going to do is he's going to take it out of his hands when he does throw the interception. And he's going to say, all right, let's give it to Jameer. Let's give it to David. Let's lean on the running game for a drive or two so that Goff can get his bearings back and go, okay, I see we've stemmed the tide. We haven't given up the points or whatever the case may be. I don't have to get it all back now. Let's resume play. Do you think this philosophy is something that we could see under Johnny Morton?
Yeah, no doubt. But I find it interesting you felt comfortable to use a terrorist reference with a Middle Eastern guy. I get triggered pretty easily. I get offended. I might have to send you a strongly worded letter on the private chat side to understand why you would use that reference in my presence. But that's interesting. You must be comfortable. Must be feeling good to say that. Osama Ben Johnson.
I lived in the Middle East for 15 years. Come on now.
Okay. No. I'm kidding. You can say whatever you want. That was hilarious. That was hilarious. That's
Some
a good
people
one.
like to
I've
call
not
him
heard that.
Benedict Johnson.
Yeah, Benedict Johnson. Let's keep it kosher. Benedict Johnson here. Let's keep it PC. Out here. I will say this. I don't know. I like this personality you got going on than maybe the other one. This one is a little bit more real and rugged. I like it. Like I said, it must be the glasses. It brought your takes to a great level over this last year. So I don't know if you're in your bipolar personality phase, but stick with this one. This one has a chance to be more. I'm trying to remember. You were in a different vibe the last time we spoke, but this vibe.
I was in a different vibe. I was in a very bad environment. I'm not going to get into all that, but eventually it'll come out and people will realize what it is.
Yeah, you're smart. You're letting Doc cook as you should. That's right. So you're letting Doc cook here on your program. So I look at it like the great Goff debate. How do you contain Jared Goff? The thing is, I disagree a little bit saying that he tries to do too much. I just think that when you're comfortable and your offensive line's good, he can be one of the best passers in the National Football League. Top 3. Accurate, super smart, understands where he needs to go, but he is limited. He is limited in his arm strength and comparatively with his, mobility. But when you do have clear limitations, I think it sharpens his skills as he gets older. He's better able to read defenses, manipulate defenses. But here's the problem. If you have a good defensive line, as most teams in the playoffs do, they're going to blitz Jared Goff. Everybody knows if you blitz Jared Goff, the chances of him turning the ball over go way up. And you also, as with every quarterback, when you pressure them, get them off their keys, off their timing, it just makes things disruptive. And no doubt about it, the Commanders knew, and it was probably cheap to hit him in the head, but they knew Dan Quinn is no joke. He's a killer out there. and he sent his linebacker out there to hurt Jared Goff. And that's what happened. And Jared Goff was way off. Like after that hit, oh my gosh, he just wasn't the same guy. But you can work around it. But Jared Goff's still a good quarterback. You have Jahmyr Gibbs. You surround him with a good offense. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown, a safety valve. You incorporate Sam Laporta a little bit more. But yeah, in those big games, you got to get Jared Goff into rhythm, and you take some pressure off of that by running the football, by getting Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery. And you remember too, guys, let's not just disregard the fact that Montgomery was a warrior, but he came back and was not the same guy. Like a healthy David Montgomery is a beast. He ain't going down. He's not getting tackled. You're going to get 4 yards a carry or more. Jahmyr Gibbs. So you can win with Jared Goff. But here's it's not a debate, but I would say you're not going to win because of Jared Goff. And you're paying him $50 million. So if you're down 14 in the fourth quarter, it's very tough. We haven't seen that epic comeback in the postseason where, he's, facing a 4th and 13, throws it 15 yards on a rope, and you win because of Jared Goff. He's played well in great games in the playoff wins. Those two that he played very well. But at the same token, he's like he needs a lot of those things to go right, which a lot of quarterbacks do. But when you're making $50 million, a lot of people, myself included, would want to win because of you. And it's tough because he's not mobile. There is a limitation. And now there's a factor that he can go way off the beaten path with his play if he's pressured or if the timing's off. There's always that concern. But in the regular season, the guy has shown that he can win a lot of regular season games. It's just in those postseason games where you're playing the best of the best, he needs to raise his level. And this is the year to do it. Can he get there? I've always kind of felt like he's kind of the same guy that we've seen this last couple of years, but he's shown that he can get better at certain spots. If Morton can unlock ball security, making sure that in the face of pressure, you have better answers. And look, guys, Benedict also made a big mistake last year. You were only down 10. In what world is Jameson Williams throwing the football? That's crazy. That was craziness. You still had a chance to be in that contest, and he made a mistake. And I thought that Ben got a little bit too confident in his play calls. 4th down, empty backfield set. Some of the calls that he made on 4th down just pissed a lot of people off, myself included. I think that John Morton will ram the ball down people's throats, 3rd and 4th down. No need to be cute on those downs. When you have that offensive line, you go right behind Penei Sewell, you're going to get 3 yards. So don't be cute, win those games. And if you're on the healthy side of the injury, remember, there were a lot of injuries. There was a lot of injuries. You can win with Jared Goff. But here's my thesis, and I think everybody that's heard me said it. We're Lions fans. We faced it all, right? We faced no wins. That season was horrible. I still have the newspaper where we didn't win a game with that darn picture. I think it was Orlovsky walking off the field. Horrible. 0-16. I lived that. I lived all the nonsense. What's next? You know it's coming. You know what's next. We're getting to the Super Bowl and we're losing. That's what's next. That's what's next in the journey, guys. So I don't think nobody said it into the microphone as much as me, but that's what's next. So prepare yourself, humble yourself, get ready for the hype, get ready for the travel, get ready for the game, and you're going to lose. That's what's next for this recipe. The recipe is heartbreak, and it's coming, and get ready for it. You got to feel it. That's what's next. Then comes the Super Bowl. There's no way in this fairy tale do the Lions just get to the Super Bowl the first time and win it. That would be fairy tale type stuff. And I would love to be proven wrong, but I'm telling you, the Super Bowl loss is next. It's coming. Get ready for it. I feel like I'm getting myself ready to cry about it, but I know it's coming. It's coming. I know a Super Bowl loss is on its way. Probably with Jared Goff. It's coming.
Well, I'm hoping that we are spared that part of the journey. Let's just get there and win it. That was the most disappointing, and I think this is what has launched the whole diatribe about the edge rushers, because I feel like had we gotten to the Super Bowl this season, we would have won. But I don't know. The defense would have been rough. It would have been rough. But had we been able to overcome Philly somehow, I think we could have overcome the Chiefs, because we've done it before. But there was an article on Detroit Lions on SI. I think it was by Christian Boer, and he was talking about the the 21st century team and who was the quarterback. So for whatever reason, last week, Easy came and hijacked my show. Because I said he said something about Stafford, and I said I wasn't a fan of Stafford's when Stafford was in Detroit. And the reason I wasn't a fan of Stafford's is because Stafford didn't win anything. He had a horrendous winning percentage against teams that were just one game over 500. That's all you had to be. You had to be one game over 500. And I think he was like 9-72 or something. It was something crazy. And as we kind of hash this out, there were some themes that came up that I'm not comfortable with. And these themes have come up. Woodward did this yesterday, and it's just been this thing. The theme is that Matthew Stafford never had any help. Matthew Stafford had a terrible organization. He never had a team. And I keep telling people, the one reason that I can't agree with you is because in 2014, well, I guess 2015, because the playoff was in January. In 2015, Matthew Stafford had a chance to go down and do one of those signature game-winning drives. He threw an interception, which during the return, the Cowboys fumbled. We get it back. And on fourth down, the last attempt to do anything, he got strip sacked. So I'm like, how did that have anything to do with Ndamukong Suh? How'd that have anything to do with Darius Slay? How'd that have anything to do with Calvin Johnson? How'd that have anything to do with any of his weapons? Okay. In the 2014 NFL season, the Detroit Lions had a strong defense, finishing second in total defenses. Second in total defense. If you have Jared Goff, if you give Jared Goff second total defense and he doesn't get it done, people will kill him in Detroit.
Yeah.
So why does Matthew Stafford get this pass? He had second total defense. Well, he had Calvin Johnson. He had other weapons.
Yeah.
What is the issue? Like, why? Where does this sentiment come from?
Well, first and foremost, Stafford gets a ring. He got the ring. A team was built
not in
around
Detroit.
him. Not in Detroit. He got the ring. Now, here's how I got to, my media career was, my first rant was, please don't pay Stafford $25 million a year. He ain't worth it. And everybody's like, oh, you're a hater. You're just that. I said, you will never see the return. You will not. I said, you will not see. And then people kind of did straw man arguments, and they took it away and said, oh, they thought that he could win a Super Bowl. Was he a Super Bowl caliber quarterback? Could he win somewhere else? And I said, it doesn't matter. In Detroit, I don't see it. He is too turnover prone, far too aggressive. He made far too many mistakes. So both can be true. There was, after 2014, some moves made, maybe not the best decisions for the organization. And you realize, look, Ndamukong Suh was let go. They moved on from him because he wanted those big dollars that were allocated to Stafford. So Stafford, because he wanted those big dollars, kind of prevented some of those big names from being able to come to Detroit. So I've always of the opinion that Stafford, by year 6 I was like, okay, I'm out. Like year 7, that first New Orleans playoff game, I wasn't thrilled with. I said, okay, I just was over it. I was like, next. And people were like, no, he can still win a Super Bowl. I said, he's not winning a Super Bowl in Detroit. And then he went on the first year he's not here to win it. And people are like, see, like, it doesn't matter. He's not here. It doesn't make a difference. He's not in Detroit. So the argument's over. He never won in Detroit. He was partly to blame. He was part of the reason that they lost. So he's not the all-world player. But the thing in these lists is that he cleared the hurdle in that he was so far better than all the others, same as Jared Goff. Now, he's also benefiting from the fact that Stafford never won. He's benefiting from the fact that Brad Holmes can actually evaluate talent and put together a team. He's got 2 playoff wins, which now makes him in legendary status. But to me, I only want one thing, a Super Bowl. That's all I'm judging Jared Goff on. And my question has always been, do I question whether he can win it? Yeah, I can question when he can win it. Similarly to Steve Young, similarly to all quarterbacks that have not won it yet. You question them until you see it. So I have doubts. Jared Goff is a relic in regards to how quarterbacks are playing. Quarterbacks are not playing that way anymore. They're playing in a way that's more athletic. The game has gone differently. Now, you can win with Jared Goff, but I don't know if you can win because of him. You can win in a way, and it's not disrespectful because Trent Dilfer won, but you need Jared Goff to be a upper level game manager, which is not really a knock. A game manager doesn't turn the ball over, doesn't make the critical error, gets the ball to the right guys, takes a calculated risk when possible, and you got the pieces to do it. But here's the thing, guys. Right now, in a big playoff game against the Eagles on the road, let's say you go to Lincoln Financial, he throws the ball deep. You're down 3 in the fourth quarter. He throws it deep. Are you guaranteeing he connects with JMO? No, you have doubts. It could wobble. It could get intercepted. It could, you're not guaranteeing it. With Stafford, you get a little bit more security because he had the key weapon, which was a strong arm. And so I'll throw it out here on your program. If it was just a year ago, heck, bring Stafford back, finish the story. Like Stafford on this team might win the Super Bowl. Like you could say Stafford on this team, zinging the ball to JMO, he gets it to him a little bit more effectively than I think Goff would. I think that you protect him, you give him Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Stafford on this football team in 2025 might have a chance to go further in the postseason than Jared Goff. I think that he's just maybe 5% better because of his arm. Now he's older and wear and tear, it's a little different, but one of those deals where Stafford is a little bit elevated in regards to the arm strength. But yeah, he was part of the reason the Lions lost a lot of games. He threw interceptions that were awful. He just was at the worst critical times a player that was not a plus player. And when you say you don't have weapons, that's disrespectful to Calvin Johnson. You had arguably the top 3 wide receiver in the history of the game. What more? You're not going to get a lot more than that in a lot of teams. So it was bad timing. I just felt like, and here's the thing too. Matthew Stafford, if he did right by the organization, by him requesting that trade, that set up the organization for the future. So even though we all make jokes about him and boo him, he did on his way out help this team win, get them out of the doldrums, because that trade set up the Lions for a lot of players, and you could have did a lot worse than Jared Goff. We're talking like fine points here between good quarterback and elite, and Jared Goff is right there on the cusp. So we're not saying Jared Goff's a bust, but there's a fine line, and only a certain few can cross that. Josh Allen's now facing the same kind of question. Can you cross that barrier of being a quarterback that is just good in the regular season, but has a natural talent, but can't win in the playoffs? I've always wanted Patrick Mahomes. I just want guaranteed, arguably, that's the one thing we haven't seen is by far guaranteed the number 1 quarterback in the NFL. Give the Lions fans that. And it's great because they've had a lot of number 1 picks, but they've never had the Patrick Mahomes where you can roll out, like, look at the wide receivers they had. They had garbage. They were in the Super Bowl. And so that would not happen with Jared Goff. They know that we need to give him like 15 weapons to at least give us a chance. So I want to win because of the quarterback. And that's just being spoiled. But I'm not disrespecting Jared Goff. What we're watching is quality quarterback play. I'm just differentiating because I grew up on Joe Montana. And then Dan Marino. And you go, oh, I see what Dan Marino's like. Dan Marino was a guy that was really talented. And that's kind of where Jared Goff is in that class. Like, you're really talented, but you're not going to be a winner. And Joe Montana just had that aura of like, I'm just going to win. You had those quarterbacks that you just knew that they were going to help their team win no matter what. And then you got Brett Favre, that gunslinger mentality. You saw that guy take a team and win a Super Bowl. So we've seen what it looks like, and we kind of want a little bit of that. What we've gotten is just a little bit short of that, where we get the guy with a little bit of a turnover problem, and that's where the issue is with Goff, is when he goes off, those turnovers just kill you. And against the Commanders, he went way off.
Yeah, there was I agree with everything you said there. And then there are people like, well, I never saw Matthew Stafford throw 5 interceptions in a game. He threw 4 against the Packers on Thanksgiving in Detroit. I mean, we lost a game.
Yeah.
You can't throw 4 interceptions. I agree with you about the quarterback. It's just not quite good enough. Whenever we have one in Detroit, like I used to play Madden religiously. I used to buy it every year. I haven't bought it in 3, 4, or 5 years. I don't know. It sucks. It's the same game. But first thing I would do, I'm always picking the Lions. Never gonna play with another team. First thing I do is change the quarterback. If I start a franchise, I'm trading Stafford, getting somebody else, or even have a creative quarterback. So I think what there has to be kind of a separation. Like, okay, Stafford can be great in the community and he could have built a school or whatever it is that he did. But in Detroit, as far as a football fan, he didn't do anything for you because he did not win. The thing that we're seeing with Jared Goff is Jared Goff took you to the NFC Championship game and didn't lose it. Jared Goff didn't lose that game. Now, you got people going, well, he's 2-4 in his playoff games. Okay. He played in 4 in 3 years. How many did Stafford play in 12? 3? Okay. And he's 0-3. He did not win a playoff game. He did not win a division. And as we said, his turnovers late in games cost us. They cost us a lot of games. So for us to just kind of not be able to differentiate what we're seeing and go, oh, well, Goff has all of this, has all of that, has all the third. That's great. And Stafford had all of that when he went to the Rams. Okay. But all of that on some desperation type stuff. Like, we've got to win this year. We don't care about the future. That's where F them picks comes from. F them picks. Go get Jalen Ramsey. Go get this person. Go get that person. Go get Odell Beckham. Go get everybody that you can get that will give you the opportunity to win now. Now, the game manager thing, the craziest thing about this is that someone got it in their mind that game manager was a bad thing. The greatest quarterback of all times, Tom Brady, came out and said, it is your number one job to manage the game. That is what a quarterback is supposed to do. So he is the greatest game manager of all time. He's the greatest quarterback of all time. So the fact that we have a game management quarterback, a game manager quarterback, the limitation is mobility, right? He doesn't have the strongest arm, but can he throw a football 50 yards down the field to J-Mo? Yes, because we've seen him do it. All right. So Johnny Morton, I think what he will do this year is he will kind of unlock some of that and kind of quell some of that talk that Jared Goff has against him, because he's going to throw the deep ball, right? He said he wants the big plays, the big explosive plays. So he's going to do it. So we'll just have to sit back and see what happens. But, Jared Goff can somehow be known as a loser, yet he took 2 franchises to NFC Championship games, right? Stafford is known as a winner because of the one season in which he won a Super Bowl, but the 12 seasons prior, he didn't win anything. So I think it's just a lot of recency bias.
And also, too, there's a big caveat here is that Goff is making $50 million per season. That's a big chunk. And so many people will say, okay, if you go with a younger quarterback, look at what the Eagles did. They went with Jalen Hurts, more athletic. Look at the Commanders. They went with Jaden Daniels. You've had opportunities to maybe swing that kind of move and be a little bit crass and get more athletic at the quarterback spot. Instead, you've kind of built a more prototypical style offense. So I just think that that's where people are criticizing Brad, is that he's acting like the smartest guy in the room. Like, no, I can win with Jared Goff. And that's what Dan Campbell said. You can win with Jared Goff. Now, many people will question that. And that's not a bad thing because he hasn't done it. That's something that Jared Goff, and that's the thing is that people they evaluate players at extremes. Like he's a bust or he's a winner. No, he's a good quarterback that can help you win a lot of games. But at the $50 million a season level, you need him to, hey, when you have a lot of injuries, pick up the team, play your best game against the Commanders, and be a reason this team won. Now, it's hard to overcome all those injuries and your offensive line not playing well and some calls that were made that weren't the best. And then the Commanders came in hungry. They felt like they could win, and they had a young, hungry team that came into Ford Field feeling like they could win. But with Jared Goff, I do think it's one of those deals where you just need just a little bit more ball security at critical times. And he was throwing the football away quite a bit last year. You saw him spike the ball into the ground and one of those deals, but you just need more answers to when there's like, again, you got to credit him. He's actually really decent against blitzes. Like his quarterback rating is solid. But what happens is
Ask
that
Brian Flores.
yeah, what happens is that Jared Goff in the most critical moments turns the ball over against good teams. That's what you don't want to have happen. And that's what you saw. What you saw was the worst of Jared Goff against the Commanders. Hopefully he rebounds from that and you get the best of him. I do think the Lions would probably need to make a couple moves at the trade deadline this year. Someone asked what I think of this year. I think it's a little bit of a step back, nothing terrible. I think 10, 11 wins, fighting for the playoffs, a little bit more grind. That's a tough schedule, but I think it's going to help them for this schedule is going to help them be a little bit more playoff ready. And maybe this football team on their path to the Super Bowl loss ends up a little bit more gritty and handles their business. But I like to listen. We're talking about the finer points of quarterbacks that win playoff games versus those that don't, and it's just a very fine line. And part of it is the team you got. And let's just hope the Lions stay lucky because they're going to look, first and foremost, Jared Goff does get the credit for success, and you're measured by wins, and he racks up a lot of them. Now, basically, he's a student, but now we're all waiting for that final exam. He's got to get an A+ on the final exam to graduate, to get the PhD. He's a great quarterback, but he doesn't have the PhD yet. He needs that Super Bowl win. I hope he gets in Detroit. It'd be a great story. A guy that, he came in with a chip on his shoulder. I had asked him that question, like, hey, does getting traded like put a chip on your shoulder? He was honest. He's like, yeah, of course it does. I don't like to be the guy, the fall guy for an organization. And he started off rough. Things weren't going right, and he's battled back. He's the ultimate Detroiter, literally, like picked up. I do think that Detroit should embrace him to help get him over the hump in that support category. I hope the Jared Goff chants kind of come back. They've kind of faded off since the playoff loss kind of diminished to nothing. But he's a good guy. He's easy to root for. Now, he doesn't give us a lot in the media. He's very PC. He talks a lot more on podcasts, but he's a regular dude. Golfs, does his thing. Upcoming father, I think he'll be great in everything that he does. But in Detroit, like I said, there's nothing wrong with pinpointing that, yeah, he's got weaknesses and he's got to prove more to help the Lions get over the hump. There's nothing wrong with saying that. There's some guys that are just like anointing him the greatest thing since sliced bread. He's not. He is in that tier 2 of quarterbacks where he needs to show a little more, needs to be more consistent, and in the biggest games be a reason. Because you also remember that in the Super Bowl, it wasn't his fault, but Bill Belichick had a field day. He coached circles around the Rams and 3 points. So that was a masterclass in Bill Belichick knowing exactly Goff's tendencies, and that he knew McVay's offense left, right, and different. And he made that was a coaching masterclass. If you want to go back and watch that Super Bowl, that was Bill Belichick's masterpiece. He definitely put a stamp on his career with that performance and what he was able to do and to lock down the Rams offense. Do I think the Rams win the division? Do I think the Lions win the division? Yeah, division winners. I think that they're going to be really competitive again in this division. A lot of motivation to whoop the Bears' ass. And the Vikings got a young quarterback, and the Packers don't have enough talent. I think they just go maybe 4-2, 5-1 in the division. This is one of those years where, Lisa, you win a lot of games at home, and you try to be around 500 on the road. That gets you to 11 wins pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, Doc, I appreciate your time, man. As always, it is great to have you on. If you have some time to hang around after the show, I'll ask you to do that. But for now, guys, Doc, tell us where we can find you.
Yes, no doubt. Listen, you guys know I'm one of the more accessible people. I love doing this. I'm a regular guy. I'm just like one of you in the chat. You'll find me in the chat on a lot of shows. I enjoy sometimes in my off time in this office, if I'm watching TV or football or the Lions, I'll be commenting. So feel free. You can find us now a lot of ways, but the hub is at Detroit Podcast on X. That's where you can find me directly. But the website is Lions on SI. All you got to do is type in on Google Detroit, 3 words, Detroit Lions SI. Our content's there. I publish Detroit Lions articles, videos every single day for the last 7 years, since 2019. I'm an insider. I go to practice. I don't just speculate all day long and say the Lions could do this or the Lions should do this. I bring you knowledge from what I hear from people. There are some making a living in the coulda, woulda, shoulda game. It's interesting, but I always wanted to bring as much knowledge as I can right there from the source by talking to people, learning from those in the know. So I'm one of the people there. And I'm growing a YouTube channel to be as good as everyone here in this space. And thank you guys for accepting me in the YouTube space as well. But I've always been doing videos. It's just another extension of where I put it. But most of the videos you will find live, daily updates at Detroit Lions on SI. So what that is just SI expanded from just a magazine to have multiple team channels. And so just like ESPN has team reporters covering a bunch of teams, SI wanted a guy that was local, passionate, and they found a guy that they knew would grind and do the job and represent the brand well. And I always say it's one thing to earn an opportunity. They found me in 2019, but it's another thing to stay there. And like I said, God willing, I'll be around for a long, long time. I always said I was just a regular guy that had a dream and grit to want to keep doing it. And so they'd have to throw me out to not cover a sports team and do podcasts in Detroit. I love it. I'm addicted to football in all forms. And I have no affiliation to any team outside of Detroit. I'm a Detroiter and I root for Detroit teams to win, but I don't kiss ass for nobody. I tell it like it is. I keep it real. I give you my thoughts. And if you respect me, I'll share. And what we can have debates and rebuttals. You don't have to agree with me, but I think that I'm a guy that's just realistic. And if you come at me incorrect, I'm going to come at you even more. Like a lot of people are like, oh, look at your responses. I'm like, well, look at the comment that came to me. You're like, you're a clown. You should not be doing this. You're just another idiot podcaster. What do you think I'm going to do? Give you a nice reply back? I'm going to tell you I've been getting paid to do this for 15 years and 9 with a national company. So come correct. Feel free. I love the debate. You don't have to like everything I say, but don't come incorrect and be disrespectful, because I'm going to lay the hammer on you. And it's going to not be nice, and it's going to be seen by a lot of people. But like I said, I feel like it's a fun atmosphere to be talking. And like I said, Detroit Lions on SI and Detroit Sports Podcast that I founded.
Appreciate you once again, Doc. And I just want to let everybody know I just put Donkey Kong in timeout because he is not allowed when I'm around. Anyway, once again, guys, appreciate the Doc for coming through. The Motor City Cats are back at it. We came to give you stats and not static. Whatever you do, make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic. And we are out. Peace.